पेन पेन बाहर से ले आना वो। Live. So a very good afternoon to you all. Welcome to Job Grid IS, and this is session number 28 of Mains Enrichment Program. We are discussing the previous year questions one by one for UPSC Civil Services Mains examination, and effectively there are less than 30 days are remaining for your examination. Effectively you have 25 days for your examination, and within these upcoming 10 days we are going to finish entire questions of world history as well as the questions of post-Indian independence, right? And now this is going to be the last question of Indian history and art and culture today. This is the last question of Indian history, right? And then onwards, from tomorrow onwards, we will discuss the post-Indian independence, and then after, at the end of the series, we will discuss the world history, right? And then when 15 days will be remaining for the examination, we will discuss about the keywords, we will discuss about the trend, and we will discuss about the smart guessing pattern, that what kind of question you can expect in your mains examination, right? So it's time to revise, it's time to refresh again, it's time to rebuild yourself again, as mains examination is over your head. Okay, so the question for the day is here. Clarify how mid 18th century India was beset with the specter of a fragmented polity. GS1 history, and this question was asked in Civil Services Mains 2017, and it's a 10 marker question. Right? So clarify how. You need to give the clarification, you need to prove your point, whenever you are giving the clarification, what you need to do, you need to prove your point, right? So clarify how mid 18th century India was beset with the spectre of fragmented polity, which means mid 18th century India, when India was in mid 18th century, so what kind of political system, what kind of politics were going on in India? And it was a fragmented polity. It was not like the one single empire was ruling and there were many subunits were under their command. Clear? So the question is very clear. So first of all, let us see the introduction. What postulates you can make here? Mid 18th century, it is mid 18th century. It is mid 18th century. Okay, it is mid 18th century. And whenever you talk about the mid 18th century, which means you talk about from late 1730s to the advent of British, to consolidation of British power. Consolidation of British power. Okay. So now here we will discuss the story, we will discuss the answer, we will start brainstorming with the death of Aurangzeb. So Aurangzeb died in 1707, and this strong Mughal ruler was succeeded by weak successors such as Bahadur Shah, such as Jahandar Shah. Bahadur Shah came to the throne at the age of 65, and he was very much disturbed by Sikh, by Jats, by Marathas. He was very much disturbed, right? So it was the fragmentation of politics started way after the death of Aurangzeb. Even Aurangzeb was very much disturbed by the Marathas. He shifted his capital at Aurangabad, from Delhi to Aurangabad, and he was this proved the last nail in his coffin, right? So he was followed by very weak successors. So there were a kind of regional powers that came into the prominence just after the death of Aurangzeb. So the regional powers were rise of regional power. What you'll write? Rise of regional powers. Rise of regional powers. The first power was Maratha power, Marathas, and they were into the Deccan. They were into the Deccan. Next was Sikh in the northern area. They were in Punjab. Jats in Bharatpur. And Rajputs. Now, Rajput rulers were very loyal. Some of the Rajput rulers were very loyal to Aurangzeb, but Aurangzeb had a problem that he always doubted on the loyalty and the valor of Rajputs, and that is the reason many of the Rajput rulers of Jaipur and Jodhpur separated from him and started rebuilding their own empire. Right? They declared their independence, and that was the biggest challenge in front of Bahadur Shah when he came just after the death of Aurangzeb. He was already 65, and he appealed that I am an old Muslim, I don't want any kind of violence. So he first of all appeased his Rajput friends. He gave the Subedari and the Jagirdaris to them, and then after he won the confidence of Rajputs. But things were not same. Things were not same as they used to be earlier during the reign of Jahangir, Akbar, and Shah Jahan. Right now, Jats were the rulers of Bharatpur, and they were a very dominating tribe. They always raided the Mughal Empire. The best example is Surajmal, Maharaja Surajmal, who is known as the plateau of Jats. He attacked Delhi and massacred a lot of people there. So it was a very disturbing instance. Next is Sikh. Sikh, came under the prominence. They became a martial race under the leadership of Guru Gobind Singh. After the demise of Shri Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, Banda Bahadur came into the prominence. He succeeded Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, and then Banda Bahadur did continuously raid on the Mughal Empire. They used to raid the grounds, the plains of Mughal area, and hide themselves in the hilly region of Himachals. So it was very tough for Bahadur Shah and then for Jahandar Shah, and at the end of the day, Farrukh Sir, with the help of Sayyid brothers, captured Banda Bahadur and brutally, butchered him. Banda Bahadur was executed in Delhi. He was captured from Gurdaspur. So 3 generations of Mughals were disturbed by one single man, Banda Bahadur. And then after Jassa Singh Ahluwalia, and then after the entire Sikh empire built. So Mughals could not contain the Sikh power. They could not contain the Sikh power, and that was the reason that the political system undergoes continuous fragmentations. And the great Marathas. Aurangzeb were disturbed by Shivaji and Shambhaji. After the demise of Shivaji Maharaj, Shambhaji Maharaj came to the throne, and then he defeated each and every ruler who was a representative of Mughal emperor, and this posed a serious challenge in front of Aurangzeb. Unfortunately, Shambhaji Maharaj was captured and he was executed along with his very cordial friend Kavi Kalash, right? And whatever you have seen in movie Chhawa, right? Both of these young men were tortured, they were disrespected, and they were forced to convert their religion. But these 2 people chosen death over the religious conversion. And then after the death of Shambhaji and Kavi Kalash, especially after the death of Shambhaji, her wife Yesubai, she made Raja Ram as his successor. and continued the policy of guerrilla warfare, and that was a nightmare for Mughal army because they were not trained for the guerrilla warfare, and this was the biggest weakness of the Mughal army. They were neither trained for the guerrilla warfare against Maharana Pratap, and they lost in the battle of Haldi Ghati, and they were not, nor they were trained in the guerrilla warfare in the terrain, in the jungles of Maharashtra, right? Especially the Konkan area. So this was the reason that gave rise to the prominent powers in India, the regional powers in India, right? Next is the, especially whenever you talk about Sikh, so Sikh were the great power under the reign of Ranjit Singh. After the death of Ranjit Singh, a lot of political happenings took place in Sikh Empire, especially with his wife Rani Jhindan and his son. His son name was Dilip Singh. So the East India Company was very carefully watching all these events, the political events in the Maratha Empire as well as in the Sikh Empire. The defeat of Marathas in the Battle of Panipat, in the third Battle of Panipat in 1761, is one of those greatest military debacle. And what happened? They became fragmented. They themselves became fragmented. Right now, by the death of Aurangzeb, Marathas are united, Sikh are united, Jats are united, Rajputs are united. But after 1761, especially, and after 1839, both these strong empires of North and South is undergoing fragmentation. So this question of fragmented polity is not just limited to the Mughal Empire, but in the Marathas itself, in the Sikh itself. So whenever we talk about the Marathas, after the death of Peshwa Balaji Bajirao, who was the son of Bajirao first, after the war of 1761, the third battle of Panipat, the entire Maratha confederacy divided into 5 families: Sindhyas of Gwalior, Bhosle of Nagpur, Gaikwads of Baroda, Peshwa of Pune, and one more family, Holkars of Indore. Right? So this was the fragmented polity, and British took the advantage. Right? They, at the end of the day, after the successful victory in Anglo-Maratha War, they disbanded the entire Maratha Empire and converted the entire area in the province of Bombay, in the presidency of Bombay. Right? Sikh, after the demise of Ranjit Singh, his son was just 1 year old, and his Rani Jhindan was very young. She was, I think, she was 22 or 23 years old. Because Jhindan Rani was very young. She was 18 when she married to Raja Ranjit Singh, because that time Raja Ranjit Singh was already 55 years of age. Now Raja Ranjit Singh married to Jhindan Rani, and when he died, so his son was just 1 year old. So now when the courtiers were expecting that they will set up a puppet rule, Jhindan Rani failed their ambitions. She took the responsibility of the throne, and she started the administration, and that led to the internal conflicts among the Sikh and the Anglo-Sikh war. Right? So these kind of happenings we have to justify. These kind of events we have to justify in your answer. So let us see them one by one. First of all, the introduction. The mid-18th century, India witnessed significant political fragmentation and instability due to decline of Mughal Empire and rise of virtually independent regional powers. Right? The Marathas, the Sikhs, the Jats, and the Rajputs. The lack of a strong centralized authority weakened the political structure, and anarchy and chaos became prominent. It eventually led to rise of English East India Company as a colonial power, what I explained to you earlier, just now. English East India Company was a trading company who interfered in the political affairs in India and came to the throne. They started interfering in the political affairs of Bengal. They killed Siraj-ud-Dowla in the Battle of Plassey, and they comprehensively defeat the trio in the Battle of Buxar: Mir Qasim, Shuja-ud-Dowla, and Shah Alam II. Right? So this is how company became the Nawab of Bengal as well as the Diwan of Bengal. So now what we'll write in body, the Indian subcontinent. You know very well what is Indian subcontinent. It is India, Pakistan. Let me write for you again. Indian subcontinent, this term. It is India, it is Pakistan, it is Nepal, it is Bhutan, it is some parts of Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka. So this is what we call the Indian subcontinent, right? The Indian subcontinent drifted toward political fragmentation due to a combination of numerous factors as discussed below. These factors underline the weakening of central authority and rising ambition of various regional and foreign elements. So various regional and foreign elements. Let me show you how it is happening. Now, Aurangzeb's orthodox policies were responsible to the rise of Sikh and Marathas. Aurangzeb wanted to make, India as a complete Islamic nation. He introduced the concept of Darul Islam. He started destroying the temples. He started religious persecutions. He started, execution of non-Muslims. Right? Because he was a Sunni Muslim. And same he wanted from his courtiers, from his people. Right? And that gave rise to the Sikh. Banda Bahadur assumed the title of Sacha Padshah. Before him, Guru Gobind Singh created the concept of Panch Pyare. Right? Marathas, they gave the concept of Swaraj, Hindvi Swaraj. Hindvi Swaraj was a dream of Shivaji Maharaj. And this dream was very well carried by Shambhaji Maharaj, then Shahuji Maharaj, then Peshwa Balaji Bajirao, then Bajirao first. Clear? So this was the result of Aurangzeb's orthodox policies. Even whenever you see these regional powers, even some of the courtiers were not happy with Aurangzeb's orthodox policies. He banned music in his own court. Akbar was very fond of music. Jahangir was fond of paintings. Shah Jahan was fond of, architectural specimen. He constructed Taj Mahal. Jahangir was responsible for patronizing a lot of painters. Akbar patronized musicians like Tansen. Right? But here what Aurangzeb did, he whitewashed almost all the paintings of his grandfather Jahangir. He prisoned his father Shah Jahan because he spent a lot of money by building a lot of, architectural buildings such as Taj Mahal and Diwan-e-Khas and Diwan-e-Kham of Shah Jahan, not Akbar. Right? And when he banned music during his reign, so many of the musicians tried to protest him in a very gentle manner. What they did, Aurangzeb used to do Jharokha Darshan. Right? He used to do Jharokha. And he used to do this thing in the evenings. So all the musicians decided that we will set up a janaza for music. We will set up a janaza for music. And when Basha will ask us, we will say we are going to bury the music because you have already responsible for the death of our music. So now they started their procession and they were going to set up all these things, the janaza and the burial things. Aurangzeb asked one of his courtiers what they are doing. He said, Huzur, ye संगीत का जनाजा निकाल रहे हैं. Then Aurangzeb replied, इनसे बोलना कि इतना गहरा इसको गाड़ कर आए संगीत को कि दोबारा कभी बाहर ना निकलने पाए. And this was the level of his orthodox mindset. Clear? So that's a beautiful story. Not beautiful, but it's a funny story. accentuated the regional religious tensions. The increasing friction further destabilized the political scenario as the Marathas conquered the territories in Deccan and North India, straining the Mughal resources. Why? Because Aurangzeb shifted his capital to Aurangabad in order to capture Shambhaji Maharaj, and he wasted a lot of time. By the time Shambhaji Maharaj was captured by the Mughals, because of some treason by two of his courtiers, he captured almost all the territories of Deccan. Now, Shambhaji Maharaj either lives or dies. It was very tough for the Mughal forces to recapture their old territories that were captured by the Marathas. And Aurangzeb spent a lot of money. He exhausted almost all his resources in Deccan, and his northern border became vulnerable for the foreign invasions. He died in 1707. And in 1739, just after 26 or 29 years, just within 30 years, foreign invasion happened, and it was one of the brutal massacres of Indian history. The massacre of Nadir Shah. Right? Along with Ahmad Shah Abdali came as his second in command. So now, decline of Mughal Empire. The Mughal court witnessed weak successor, I explained you earlier, and internal power struggle, which ultimately led to steady erosion of empire's weak situation of law and order, and lack of governance created power vacuum in various regions. What happened actually after the death of Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah, Farooq Sir came into being, and when they people die, Mughal court became a fragile political scenario, a fragile political arena. The correct word is political arena. Why so? Because there was a lot of corruption in the Mughal court. Especially the problem with Muhammad Shah Rangila was that he was always busy with his own enjoyment, and he used to ask bribe for his own officers. He used to ask his dividend, which means there was transparent corruption, rampant corruption going on in his court. And that was the best opportunity for Peshwa Baji Rao. Right? Peshwa Baji Rao. There is a famous story when Muhammad Shah Rangila was sitting on his throne and he was looking at Kohinoor, and he asked one of his courtiers, "Who is Baji Rao? Who is this Marathi man?" And his man said, one of his commanders said, "Jahanpana, Baji Rao is just a war general." He said कि आलमपना कि बाजी राव तो ऐसे ही एक साउथ इंडिया में है, मतलब ऐसे ही उछलता कूदता रहता है, हम आप कहो तो हम उसको कभी भी मार सकते हैं। और ये बात बाजीराव पेशवा के कानों में पड़ गई। एंड व्हाट बाजीराव पेशवा डिड, he defeated Nizam of Hyderabad first in Battle of Palkhed. And when the borders of Deccan were completely secured by the Marathas, just with 500 horsemen, he marched towards Delhi. Right? He hosted the flag of Maratha Empire at Delhi. And Muhammad Shah Rangila and his commanders did not even dare to come out and looking at the situation. So this was the level of governance and this was the level of military leadership going on in the Mughal Empire, right? Next is rise of regional powers was a natural development towards filling power vacuum created by the disintegration of Mughal Empire. These powers included the Marathas, Sikh, Rajput, Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal, and Nizam of Hyderabad. You know very well when Chinkilich Khan or Asaf Khan or Nizam of Hyderabad, he was one of the finest commanders in the Aurangzeb's army, and he retired at the age of 40. And it was the responsibility of Farooq Sir and Muhammad Shah Rangila. They said that we want you again and we will make you the Nizam of Hyderabad. You will take care of Deccan. You are responsible to neutralize the Maratha power. And Muhammad Shah Rangila did not even believe on his capability, so that they fight with each other in the Battle of Sakarkheda. In the Battle of Sakarkheda, the Mughal army was defeated by Nizam of Hyderabad, and the Mughal ruler gave him the suzerainty of region of Hyderabad. Right, so fragmentation happened by the hands of Mughals only. Now, the Nawabs of Awadh and Bengal, the Subedars of Awadh and Bengal declared themselves independent, and Muhammad Shah Rangila has nothing to do with it. He cordially accepted their independence. Sikh, Rajputs and Maratha, I have explained you earlier. The political landscape of India was further fragmented by the frequent competition between these regional entities for control over resources and territory. Right now, Sikh were fighting in the northern region, Marathas were fighting in the Deccan, Rajputs were fighting to secure their Rajputana. But somehow, in the mid of the 18th century, Maratha started attacking at Rajputana, and they were defeated by the forces of Jaipur, right, the forces of Amer. Right, so they started fighting for their own interest. So British were very carefully looking towards these incidences, and that is the reason why they introduced the policy of subsidiary alliance. Right. Now, due to lack of internal strength, the Mughals failed to fight effectively against the external challenges that came in the form of several invasions from the northwest, that of Nadir Shah 1739 and Ahmad Shah Abdali from 1748 to 1767 crushed the Mughals, and to an extent that they were no longer the dominant power in the country. So what happened exactly in 1739? Muhammad Shah Rangila was busy in his own affairs, and that was the reason for the foreign invasion of Nadir Shah. Nadir Shah knew very well that Delhi is vulnerable for attack. They are very weak, and it is the best opportunity to plunder Delhi. Right, he came as a robber. Right, but his army was well modernized, his artillery was well modernized. On the other hand, artillery of the Mughals, which used to be their main power, their backbone, were very, very obsolete, and that was the reason Mughal army, comprehensively defeated by the army of Nadir Shah, and he looted Delhi like anything. He butchered, be it an old man or a kid or a lady or young man, obviously, and he didn't even left a single penny from any home. His second in command, Ahmad Shah Abdali, he was very loyal to him. So Abdali was gifted Kohinoor by Nadir Shah. Right. So then Abdali continued the campaign after the death of Nadir Shah. He founded the Durrani Empire in Afghanistan, and he crushed the Mughal power as well as he defeated the Marathas in the third battle of Panipat. Now, internal challenges presented themselves in the form of rising insurgents, rebels such as Marathas, Sikh, Jats, Rajputs and Afghans. There was a continuous struggle among the Mughals, Marathas and Afghans, which eventually led to third battle of Panipat. Right, the further fragmentation. What happened after third battle of Panipat? Marathas remained as a major power of this country for next 10 years, but they did not approach to the North India. And then after the death of Balaji Vishwanath, they entered themselves into the chaos of succession. So now they were divided into the 5 major families which are existing still now: the Holkars of Indore, the Gaikwads of Baroda, the Peshwas of Pune, the Bhosle of Nagpur. Clear? The country fell into anarchy and chaos with frequent peasant uprisings, wars of succession and invasion of foreign and neighboring rulers. It resulted into large-scale deaths and loss of property and poverty due to high taxes, inflation, trade restrictions, mass rapes and murders by the invading forces. So now the mid-18th century also witnessed the rise of European powers, especially the British East India Company. Now this also led to the ineffective alliances formed by regional powers and European companies, which were often short-lived. Right, so the subsidiary alliance, it was a short-lived alliance. They continuously changed their policies as per the political scenario of India. So what happened exactly? The internal chaos in Bengal, the internal chaos in Maratha Empire were continuously going on, and British interfered in this. Right, now British had a blessing that they've had a well modernized army, and they proved themselves in the Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar that Indian forces, be it Maratha, be it Bengal, be it any forces, they do not have much modernized weapons, so we can easily dominate them militarily, but they were very less in numbers. They were completely outnumbered by the princely states of India. So what they did, they played the policy of subsidiary alliance. They started trading, they did the negotiations, right? And that is how they came into the prominence. So now this also led to ineffective alliances formed by regional powers and European companies, which were often short-lived. The fluidity in the political landscape further increased, and fragmentation instability of Indian subcontinent. So now what we will write in the conclusion? So the conclusion should be in such a manner, concluding. Can I see the comments? Okay. So the conclusion should be in such a manner that it must reflect all the points that you have mentioned in the body of the answer. The above sequence of historical events and developments clearly indicate that Indian subcontinent in the middle of the 18th century was marked by political fragmentation and regional instability. This not only encouraged political instability but also paved the way for external forces to exploit the situation to their advantage. It tore apart the fabric of Mughal Empire, especially the Mughal Empire, who used to be the strongest empire of this country after the first battle of Panipat in 1526. It completely tore apart the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire ceased to exist. Even people started making fun of Mughal Badshah. They used to say कि बादशाह की सल्तनत दिल्ली से पालम तक बुरी तरह से फैली पड़ी है, राइट? कि उसका मजाक उड़ाया जाता था कि मुगल बादशाह की सल्तनत तो इतनी बड़ी है कि दिल्ली से लेके पालम तक फैली हुई है और उसके पास टाइम ही नहीं है कि वो इतनी बड़ी सल्तनत को देख पाए. So this was the level, right? So this was the last question of modern Indian history. Tomorrow onwards we are going to discuss the question of post-Indian independence, as well as we are going to discuss the question of world history. Now within 10 days we are going to finish this entire mains enrichment program, and then I will come up some of the best of the sessions that are required for the mains examination. We will come with the important keywords, as well as we'll come with the PYQ analysis, the smart guessing for mains answer, right? So can I call it a day? If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Comments. Okay, then if you want more guidance, you can download the JobGrade IS app and subscribe the Ignite Foundation batch of UPSC Civil Services 2026, as well as you can subscribe the YouTube channel of JobGrade IS. You can follow us on Instagram, you can follow us on X, you can follow the Telegram channel, right? And get maximum benefits. So thanks a lot. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.